Chosen one, have you ever felt a quiet force within you, one so unexplainable yet so undeniable? It's not just a gift, it's not a skill, it's not charisma or talent. It's deeper than all of that. It's a sacred current that has pulsed beneath the surface of your life since the day you were born. It's divine, it's hidden, and it's real. In spirit, it has a name, the blue power. This isn't fantasy. This isn't wishful thinking or self-help fluff. The blue power is a holy force God embedded into the ones He chose, long before they ever knew His name. It is ancient, it is pure, it is dangerous to darkness. And if you're here, reading this, then it means one thing. God has already marked you. You didn't stumble upon this message. You were drawn here, and maybe, just maybe, you've always known there was something different about you, something heavy on your spirit, a calling you could never fully silence. Heaven hasn't forgotten you. The world may have overlooked you, but God never has. And now He's saying, it's time to awaken what I've placed in you. Before we dive deeper into this sacred revelation, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to those of you who have supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity fuels this light. You are part of this divine movement. And for everyone feeling stirred right now, drop a 777 in the comments to align your spirit with what heaven is activating in you today. Yes, 777, God's number of completion and spiritual perfection. Now, take a deep breath, get still, because what comes next will confirm what your soul has always suspected. Let's go deeper into the mystery of the blue power and why you were born to use it. God's chosen one, the hidden blue power. God gave you. It's time to use it. What is the blue power that has been stirring inside your spirit? In our physical dimension, the color blue often speaks to serenity, clarity, and depth. Oceans mirror it, the sky wears it. Wisdom traditions use it as a symbol of calm. But in the spiritual dimension, where frequencies shape destinies, blue is not simply a color, it is a code, a divine wavelength vibrating with the frequency of revelation, truth, and sacred authority. It's the hue of heaven's justice, echoing like a trumpet through your soul. You weren't just given an aura, you were assigned a signal. Blue is the language God speaks through the chosen. It is the color wrapped around Moses' tabernacle curtains. It is the sapphire pavement beneath God's feet. In Ezekiel 1:26, above the vault over their heads was what looked like a throne of lapis lazuli. This isn't symbolic flair, it's architectural theology. Blue appears where divinity intersects the human realm. Just as Jesus' transfiguration in Matthew 17:2 lit the mountaintop with a luminous glory as bright as the sun, His garments pulsed with a bluish white, like lightning caught in cloth. Why? Because blue marks proximity to the throne. But why does this matter to you? Have you ever walked into a room and felt the air shift even before you spoke? Why do strangers feel safe enough to pour their pain into your silence? What is this invisible force that draws people toward your presence, yet makes enemies bristle at your peace? And why has the enemy fought your identity harder than any possession or relationship? Because you carry blue power, and that power is dangerous to darkness. You are not just sensitive, you are resonant. Like a tuning fork struck by heaven, your life emits frequencies others cannot decipher but always feel. This is spiritual physics. The blue power is coherence between your spirit and the divine blueprint written in God's own frequency. Psalm 89:14 declares, "Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Love and faithfulness go before you." This power in you is not ornamental, it is judicial. You don't control the environment by force, you calibrate it by spiritual gravity. When you walk in alignment with your calling, you restore balance, like a magnetic pole realigning a scattered compass. People calm down around you because your spirit hosts heaven's equilibrium. That is not charisma. That is covenant. That is your fingerprint marked in blue. This power gives you the courage to move forward when the system tries to erase your name. It gives you clarity in rooms full of fog. Isaiah 11:2 speaks of this Spirit resting upon you. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and of understanding, the Spirit of counsel and of might. You were made for holy disruption, not performance. Pope John Paul II, a shepherd of courage under communist oppression, once said, "The future starts today, not tomorrow." He understood something many never grasp. When your identity is rooted in the divine, your authority does not begin with applause. It begins with presence. And yes, even the enemy recognizes it. Adolf Eichmann, architect of the Holocaust, also operated under an invisible power, one of spiritual inversion. A Nazi bureaucrat with a chilling sense of order, his obsession with control eventually led to chaos, death, and eternal infamy. His story stands as a grim mirror to yours. When divine power is denied and distorted, it becomes a curse. Contrast that with Zariah, a once overlooked art student who began having vivid dreams of light flooding cities. She started painting what she saw, swirling blue skies over dark alleyways, rivers splitting cracked lands. Her pieces went viral, but not for fame. People reported being healed emotionally by just standing in front of them. Some wept, others felt peace. No theology, no pulpit, just brushstrokes dripping with spiritual resonance. That was blue power at work. The blue morpho butterfly dazzles not because of pigment, but because of structure. Its wings refract light into frequencies the human eye reads as brilliant blue. It's science and wonder dancing in unison. You too don't shine because of what's on the surface. You shine because of how you're built, layer by layer, for heaven's light to refract through you. Exodus 28:31-32 describes the robe of the high priest. Make the robe entirely of blue cloth. Why? Because the one who enters sacred places must carry the authority of the realm he enters. You are that priest. You are that vessel. And the blue power isn't borrowed, it's embedded. So no, this power isn't optional. It is identity. It's why silence has felt heavy on your chest, why compromise made you sick, why shrinking never worked, because heaven didn't mark you to blend in. It branded you to carry its light, like a secret architecture etched inside the soul. Blue power isn't just what you carry, it's who you are becoming. It evolves as you evolve. Like a star collapsing inward to become a supernova, your most intense pressure seasons are often signs that your spiritual gravity is increasing. Romans 8:19 says, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." All of creation is coded to respond to those who awaken this frequency. You're not just here to survive, you're here to reveal. But revealing isn't comfortable. You've likely experienced seasons where your voice trembled more than it roared, where silence wrapped around you like a cloak. This wasn't weakness, it was spiritual gestation, like Elijah hiding in the cave in 1 Kings 19:12, waiting not for the earthquake nor the fire, but for the whisper. The blue power doesn't crash, it hums, and its hum breaks chains that shouting never could. But what happens when the world doesn't recognize what's inside you, when your obedience costs you relationships, when walking in integrity means walking alone? Is this loneliness or consecration? Is it exile or elevation? That question haunted Adrian, an aerospace engineer who left a prestigious lab because he refused to alter scientific data for a defense contractor's cover-up. He walked away from 6 figures and public esteem, but something inside him whispered, "You're not betraying the world, you're aligning with heaven." Today, Adrian mentors youth in underserved communities, teaching quantum theory with a side of faith. He tells them, truth is not expensive, but it will cost you everything. Contrast that with Valeria, a rising political analyst known for manipulating narratives to gain influence. She once leaked private information to undermine a rival and became the youngest senior advisor in her firm. But what came next? Paranoia, isolation, addiction. Her platform grew, but her soul shrank. The absence of blue power does not create neutrality. It creates distortion. That's why you, as a chosen one, must protect what you carry. Proverbs 4:23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." This is not metaphor. It's neurological. The heart has its own magnetic field, 5,000 times stronger than the brain's. What you feel internally creates measurable frequencies around you. Blue power operates in this realm. It's not limited by logic. It is activated through alignment. There's a story told in whispers about a boy named Elias who never quite fit in. He would sit under trees, drawing patterns no one understood. He once told his teacher, "These are maps from God." Decades later, those same sketches matched ancient glyphs discovered in a long-lost desert civilization. No degree, no fame, just deep knowing. The blue power had whispered truths that history had yet to catch up to. Your life might carry similar strange signs, visions, symbols, divine timings. But what if the very things that made you feel out of place are actually proof you're plugged into heaven's current? When whales sing across oceans, their vibrations can be heard hundreds of miles away, not because they shout, but because their frequency is pure. The deeper the resonance, the farther the reach. That is the law of acoustic energy, and a metaphor for your spiritual reach. When your soul aligns with truth, your impact transcends geography and time. Isaiah 61 declares, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." But this isn't a spotlight moment, it's a seismic one. You are not just being seen, you are being felt. This message was never meant for the crowd. It wasn't crafted to entertain or validate everyone. It was spoken into existence for the marked ones, for those who have always felt a pulse under their ribs that no one else seemed to hear. A spiritual current running just beneath the surface of ordinary life. Blue power is not loud, but it's undeniable. And its presence in your life is proof that heaven never overlooked you, even when the world did. This power was placed in you, not for show, but for sacred function. It doesn't need spotlights or stages. Like the burning bush that caught Moses' attention in Exodus 3:2, it reveals itself in ordinary moments that suddenly feel charged with the supernatural. That's what this power is, divine charge embedded in your human experience. Have you ever noticed how certain spaces feel heavier when you enter? It's not superstition, it's your spirit detecting frequency shifts, your internal resonance aligning or rejecting what's in the room. That's not paranoia, that's a prophecy. That's why the applause of the world has never fully satisfied you. Not because you're ungrateful, but because something in you longs for authenticity, not attention. As a child, you likely sensed things before they happened. You didn't always have the language for it, but your body knew. The unease before a conversation, the knowing before someone's secret was confessed. And when others called it weird, a part of you wondered if something was wrong. But Psalm 139:14 whispers otherwise. "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." Your wiring is sacred. Elijah didn't hear God in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire. It was the still small voice that carried revelation. 1 Kings 19:12. That's how blue power works. Discreet but weighty, invisible but disruptive. You've likely had moments where silence felt louder than shouting, where your stillness unsettled people more than noise ever could. Catherine, a renowned trauma psychologist, often speaks about emotional pattern mapping, the ability to read others' trauma signatures without words. She grew up being dismissed as too intense, too deep. But today, she transforms lives by sitting in spaces others avoid. "I don't fix people," she says. "I witness them until they remember who they are." That's blue power in clinical form. Yet not all use their gift righteously. Darius, once a celebrated hedge fund prodigy, weaponized his sensitivity. He used emotional pattern recognition to predict and manipulate market behavior, crushing competitors before they even moved. His net worth soared, but his soul disintegrated. In his final interview before vanishing from public life, he confessed, "I can predict everything except who I've become." Do you ever feel restless even when life appears just fine? That inner tension isn't failure, it's formation. God uses dissatisfaction as a compass. Proverbs 20:27 says, "The spirit of man is the lamp of the Lord, searching all his innermost parts." That searching within you, it's not emptiness, it's encoded instruction. The sacred doesn't shout, it whispers. That's why your uniqueness was never meant to be explained, it was meant to be walked in. You may have followed the crowd once, but something in you always knew, this isn't who I am. That wasn't rebellion, that was spiritual self-defense. There's a boy named Elias whose story has circled quietly for years. As a child, he would sketch patterns he saw in his dreams, circles within spirals, numbers within colors. His teachers thought he was autistic, maybe obsessive. Years later, those same sketches were found to match sacred geometric inscriptions from an ancient Syrian monastery uncovered by archaeologists. No one trained him, no one taught him, but heaven remembered. Blue power imprints truth before the world has categories for it. You might have similar moments. Have you ever picked up someone's sadness before they said a word? That's not coincidence. That's spiritual sonar, a God-given radar that tunes you into frequencies others ignore. The mycorrhizal networks of trees, especially ancient sequoias, communicate through underground fungal webs. Scientists now call it the wood wide web. Trees exchange nutrients and warnings across miles. Hidden, silent, precise. Sound familiar? Your gifts may be buried, but they are never dormant. They've been networked in the spirit all along. And maybe you've asked yourself, why does my presence make some people uncomfortable before I even speak? That discomfort isn't your fault. It's their spirit reacting to what yours already carries. Light exposes. Leviticus 20:26 speaks a hard but holy truth. You are to be holy to me, because I have set you apart from the nations to be my own. Being set apart was never about isolation. It was about designation. And so, as you begin to recognize these signs, not just as quirks but as confirmation, understand this. You are not strange. You are aligned. You are not lost. You are calibrated. And this blue power was not given to make you famous. It was given to make you ready. You've always felt it, haven't you? That sudden knowing when someone's words don't match their spirit. You've seen smiles that felt like shadows, compliments that carried subtle daggers. You've sensed storms long before they broke. This isn't anxiety. This isn't overthinking. It's discernment, spiritual pattern recognition, wired into your very being. 1 Corinthians 2:15 says, "The person with the Spirit makes judgments about all things, but such a person is not subject to merely human judgments." That's the paradox you live in. You see what others miss, but they often can't see what you carry. This knowledge has guarded you, yes, but it's also set you apart, sometimes painfully so. Have you ever wondered why your peace unsettles some people? Your gift isn't loud, but it reverberates. You don't try to read people, but you often feel them before they even speak. It's as if your presence is tuned to subatomic spiritual frequency, measuring vibrations others don't know they emit. This isn't superstition, it's quantum-level empathy. Like a gravitational field, your spirit pulls hidden truth into the light. Joseph in Genesis experienced this kind of insight. Interpreting Pharaoh's dreams wasn't about talent, it was divine frequency alignment. Genesis 41:39 says, "Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you." Joseph didn't campaign for leadership. He was elevated because he could feel what others could only guess. This is why your gift can also isolate you. When people can't explain you, they often exclude you. But here's the truth. You were never built for mass validation. You were designed for divine confirmation. Not everyone will understand your atmosphere-shifting presence, and that's okay. John 3:8 reminds us, "The wind blows wherever it pleases. You cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit." Some time ago, a woman named Mireya worked as a hospice nurse. She wasn't famous, but everyone felt something shift when she entered a patient's room. Family members often said, "It's like the air changes when she walks in." She didn't speak much. She simply listened. Yet even in silence, people sobbed, confessed, and softened. One elderly man on his deathbed held her hand and whispered, "You carry something holy. I don't know what it is, but I trust it." That's blue power. And then there are those drawn to you as if by magnetic force. People open up to you on trains, in grocery lines, in elevators, seeking counsel they never intended to share. Why? Because your spirit speaks even when your mouth is still. You walk with spiritual mass, a gravitational pull shaped by heaven. That's not charisma, that's mantle. Do you notice how you never intended to lead and yet do people follow? That was David. He wasn't chasing thrones, he was tending sheep. But 1 Samuel 16:13 says, "From that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. The anointing finds you. And once it does, rooms change. Not because you take over, but because heaven stands with you." This is what it means to be a thermostat, not a thermometer. Thermometers reflect the atmosphere. Thermostats regulate it. You carry calibration power. You don't just absorb chaos, you neutralize it. And not through control, but through presence. Your calm isn't passive, it's an active spiritual force. Desmond Tutu, the late South African Archbishop and Nobel Peace Prize laureate, embodied this mystery. In the darkest days of apartheid, he often walked through crowds of armed soldiers without raising his voice. In one account, surrounded by police who tried to intimidate him during a protest, he simply said, "You have already lost. You just don't know it yet." And then he smiled. That peace was not naivety. It was divine defiance. His presence carried the weight of a realm far greater than any political regime. That's the mystery of your anointing. Sometimes the world resents what you carry because it reminds them of what they've rejected. Of course, not everyone responds well. Some resist you. Some try to diminish you. That's what happened to Raina, a corporate executive known for quiet leadership. She didn't demand authority, she simply walked in it. But a jealous colleague, envious of her influence, began a smear campaign. Raina was demoted without cause. Months later, when that same department collapsed due to internal corruption, the board reinstated her and apologized. What stood out? Raina never defended herself. She let presence speak. The spirit defended what man tried to destroy. Nature reflects this reality. A lion doesn't roar to dominate, it roars to signal presence. But often its very silence communicates more power than its sound. When the lion walks, the savannah stills. You walk with that same rhythm, not to control, but to remind creation that divine alignment is near. And maybe you've asked quietly, Why do I feel this responsibility even when no one sees what I do? The answer is simple yet sacred, because heaven sees, and heaven assigned it. The presence of God rests on you, not for applause, but for impact. So when the world tries to reduce your discernment to overthinking, when others treat your stillness as weakness, when your obedience costs you rooms you once thought you needed, remember this: your blue power does not respond to visibility. It responds to vibrational authority. You don't shift rooms by forcing your way in. You shift rooms because God walks in with you. Chosen one, what if your sensitivity was never meant to be a burden, but a divine blueprint? You've always felt life in high resolution. While others skim the surface, you dive into the depths. You hear sadness behind someone's laughter. You sense tension in a handshake. You find beauty in the way morning light touches a wall. These aren't quirks, they're codes, and your heart wasn't wired this way by accident. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." You've been close to the broken because you carry what heals them. Have you ever asked why you can't just let things go like others? When betrayal hits, it bruises deeper. When injustice rises, your chest aches. This is not fragility, it's sacred sensitivity. Your soul is a chamber designed to resonate with pain, joy, silence, and spirit all at once. It's spiritual physics. In sound design, there's a term called resonant frequency, the precise pitch at which something begins to vibrate. Your heart operates on heaven's resonant frequency. That's why you feel what others filter out. The prophet Jeremiah understood this torment. In Jeremiah 9:1 he cried, "Oh, that my head were a spring of water and my eyes a fountain of tears. I would weep day and night for the slain of my people." He wasn't weak. He was wired to weep because he was assigned to heal. You may have been labeled too much, too emotional, too intense, but that's the language of a world afraid of depth. In truth, what they called too much was simply more than they could carry. And here's the mystery: because you carry such depth, healing flows from you without effort. You don't have to try to fix people. They simply feel safe when they're near you. That isn't psychology, that's spiritual covering. Jacqueline Novogratz, founder of Acumen and one of the most impactful social entrepreneurs in the world, once said, "The opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is dignity." She built her life helping those discarded by the global system because she couldn't unfeel the stories she heard. She turned empathy into architecture, building solutions through compassion. Not everyone does that. Marcus, a once renowned motivational speaker, learned to mimic empathy on stage. He told stories of pain, but never processed his own. Behind the curtain, he was controlling, manipulative, cold. His platform grew, but his soul decayed. Eventually, scandal revealed he had been emotionally exploiting those who trusted him. His sensitivity had been cosmetic. And the cost? Everything. Galatians 6:7 warns, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." But you're different, because your empathy isn't performative. It's embodied. That's why people confess things they've never said before, why they cry in your presence without knowing why. You're not trying to be healing. You simply are. Have you noticed how you often cry at things others don't even blink at? Sabine. As a child, she would stop in the middle of play and begin praying for strangers she saw on the street, not because she was told to, but because she felt them. Her parents worried it was abnormal, but at age 25, she became a trauma therapist. Clients said they felt seen by her before even speaking. Her gift? She never dismissed her depth. She followed it like a compass. Octopuses, for example, have 9 brains and a nervous system that allows them to process and respond to emotional stimuli with stunning complexity. They can change color, texture and posture based on mood and surroundings. It's not camouflage, it's emotional adaptation. Like you, they feel first, then act. You might wonder at times, why do people always find comfort in me even when I feel empty? It's because your spirit carries overflow, even when your body feels drained. God designed your soul with deep wells, not for draining, but for divine circulation. 2 Corinthians 1:4 affirms this. He comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. That's your divine echo. You feel deeply, so others can rise freely. So no, your emotions aren't liabilities. They're prophetic instruments. And the next time someone says, "You're too sensitive," remember, Jesus wept, and he raised the dead. Let's be honest, your journey hasn't been simple. The scars you carry didn't come from accidents. They came from battlefields. The pain wasn't random. The silence wasn't empty. That betrayal you couldn't explain. It wasn't personal. It was prophetic. You weren't being punished. You were being proven. Have you ever looked back and realized how many storms you walked through that should have drowned you? Those seasons of delay, the betrayals that felt like sharp knives in soft places, the confusion that clouded even your prayers, all of it was strategy. Hell isn't chaotic, it's calculated. And the attacks on your life weren't symptoms of weakness, but signs of your spiritual threat. John 10:10 says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy." The enemy saw your potential long before you saw your reflection clearly. There's something terrifying to darkness about someone who keeps getting back up. Your life has felt like resistance training in the spirit. Every loss increased your capacity. Every disappointment deepened your discernment. You've been refined in ways you didn't even notice, like a sword under fire or a diamond under pressure. And if you've ever felt like darkness followed you, even when you were doing everything right, here's why. You're carrying light that unsettles every system of control it touches. Job never sinned, yet he lost everything. Why? Because God trusted his integrity. Job 1:8 reveals a terrifying truth. Have you considered my servant Job? The enemy didn't choose him. God offered him up as a vessel to display endurance. What if your suffering wasn't just endured, but entrusted? That's what happened to Miko, a concert pianist raised in a war-torn region. As a child, she learned to play on a broken keyboard by candlelight. Her parents were arrested for their faith. She practiced in silence while bombs shook the ground. Today she performs in peace conferences worldwide. Her hands still tremble, but when she plays, generals weep. "I was trained by sorrow," she once said. That's blue power. That's resilience anointed by purpose. Not everyone honors pain the same way. Lucas, once a rising theologian, used his suffering to justify bitterness. He twisted scripture to mask control, building a following based on fear rather than freedom. His platform grew, but his inner world collapsed. When exposed for spiritual manipulation, he disappeared from public life. His tragedy? He used his wounds as weapons instead of altars. Hebrews 12:15 warns, "See to it that no one misses the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many." And maybe you've asked yourself, why do I keep attracting hardship even when I try to do right? Because your presence is friction in spiritual realms. You unsettle what is hidden. You confront what is comfortable. And before you even knew who you were, hell launched its campaign to break your identity, but it failed. Isaiah 54:17 declares, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." Notice, it doesn't say weapons won't form. It says they won't win. Your pain, then, is not your disqualification. It's your anointing path. In metallurgy, there's a process called tempering, where metal is heated, cooled, then reheated repeatedly to strengthen it. If the temperature is too low, it shatters under pressure. But the right intensity produces flexibility and strength. You've been tempered. There's a woman named Celine who rarely speaks of her past. Abused, abandoned, discarded, she should have become hard and hateful. Instead, she became a counselor for women in prison. Her sessions aren't filled with lectures. They're saturated in silence, tears, and raw presence. I don't rescue, she says. I remind them they're still breathing, still chosen. That's power rising through wreckage. The lodgepole pine, native to wildfire-prone regions, only releases its seeds under extreme heat. Without fire, it cannot multiply. You too have endured flames, but instead of being reduced, you were released. Do you realize what that means? It means if you're still standing after all you've been through, you're not just surviving, you're being positioned. Every storm refined your voice. Every betrayal sharpened your wisdom. Every delay stripped away what could not carry your destiny. Romans 8:37 says, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us, not after the storm, in it." So no, you're not broken, you're battle-tested. And the next time you feel overwhelmed by your past, remember, the very weight that tried to bury you became the resistance that made you unshakable. Have you ever woken from a dream so vivid it lingered like smoke in your chest, as if it were more real than your waking life? Those images, symbols, names, and sensations that arrived without context. What if they were not imagination but instruction, not metaphor but message? What you've experienced isn't spiritual noise, it's divine frequency. That's the blue power speaking. The spiritual realm is rich with language, dreams, visions, nudges, whispers. These aren't random fragments of the subconscious, they are coordinates from heaven. Acts 2:17 says, "Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your young men will see visions, your old men will dream dreams." When you carry blue power, your soul becomes receptive to that realm's communication. You begin to pick up on frequencies others dismiss as coincidence. Why do certain numbers follow you everywhere? Why do places you've never visited feel strangely familiar? Once, a young man named Armand kept dreaming of a golden door etched with Hebrew letters. He didn't understand it. Years later, while volunteering in Jerusalem, he stood before a sealed synagogue and wept. There, carved into the wood, was the same door. The rabbi told him that was the ancient gateway to the inner sanctuary, long forgotten. Armand had never studied Hebrew, never been religious, but the dream led him back to what was written in his spirit. That is how the Spirit whispers, in symbols deeper than reason. And now that you're aware of the gift, you'll begin to hear with new ears. Like tuning a radio, the more aligned your heart becomes, the clearer his voice will feel. Isaiah 30:21 assures us, whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it." But divine alignment comes with responsibility. When you carry blue power, you're not just tuned to heaven, you're activated to confront what offends it. Lies unsettle you. Corruption chokes your peace. You can't stand idly by while dignity is stripped from others. And that tension inside your chest, that's not rebellion, it's righteous fire. Jeremiah 29 says, "His word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in. Indeed I cannot." That burning in you is divine protest. Even when silence would keep you safe, your soul won't comply. You weren't built for silent complicity. You were forged for courageous clarity. Have you noticed how your spirit grows agitated in systems that promote injustice? Isabel, a corporate ethics officer, was once praised for her sharp mind and quiet loyalty. But when she discovered her company's hidden exploitation of overseas labor, she couldn't look away. She blew the whistle, costing her job, her status, and almost her reputation. Years later, those same reports led to major reforms across the industry. "I didn't do it because I'm brave," she said. "I did it because I couldn't sleep knowing the truth." That's blue power. Not flashy, just faithful. In contrast, Vincent was once an environmental consultant celebrated for his charisma. He faked data to protect the profits of industries poisoning rivers. His charm masked compromise, but nature doesn't forget. When lawsuits unraveled his lies, he lost everything. His downfall was not because of what he did, it was because of what he refused to confront. Proverbs 17:15 warns, "Acquitting the guilty and condemning the innocent, both are detestable to the Lord." Nature is allergic to deception. Certain species of birds, like the scrub jay, can remember exactly where they buried thousands of seeds, and if they think they've been watched while hiding them, they'll dig them up and move them. Truth, for them, is protection. Their instinct is survival through honesty. Creation teaches us, when you're wired for truth, you cannot rest in environments of secrecy. There's a girl named Leora, raised in a home where secrets were currency and truth was dangerous. But even as a child, she asked questions no one dared voice. She became a social worker in juvenile justice, helping teenagers who felt invisible. One day, a boy asked, "How do you always know when someone's lying?" She smiled, "Because I used to lie to survive. Now I live to set others free." Blue power gave her discernment. Trauma refined it into justice. And maybe you've asked, why can't I just mind my business like others do? Because you were never created to look away. You weren't called to echo. You were called to interrupt, to break cycles, to speak when the atmosphere demands silence. Ephesians 5:11 commands, "Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them." So you, chosen one, are not dramatic. You are disruptive by design. You are heaven's intervention in human systems and the unrest you feel when truth is buried. That's not anger. It's alignment. Maybe you've wandered. Maybe you've fallen short in ways you haven't told anyone. Maybe you've run from your calling, not because you didn't believe, but because you were afraid of what it would cost. And yet somehow, even in your drifting, you never drifted too far. You always return, not to religion, not to routine, but to something deeper, a voice beneath the noise, calling you by name. Why do you still feel drawn to the Spirit, even after seasons of silence? That's not coincidence, that's resonance. Jeremiah 31:3 says, "I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have drawn you with unfailing kindness." What draws you back is not guilt, it's gravity. The blue power within you refuses to give up. Even when your faith flickers, your spirit keeps vibrating in the direction of home. Peter, the disciple, denied Jesus 3 times. His shame could have buried him. But after the resurrection, Jesus didn't scold him. He simply asked, "Do you love me?" John 21:17. Not, "Did you fail?" Not, "Why did you fall?" But, "Do you still burn?" Because God never calls the flawless. He calls the available. And you're still here, still standing. That means He's not done. Your failures didn't forfeit your future. They refined your lens. Blue power doesn't require perfection. It requires surrender. You don't need to be stainless. You just need to be willing. Have you noticed how, even after all the wrong turns, something in you refuses to give up? There's a sacred dissatisfaction in you, an ache that success can't silence. You've had glimpses of love, moments of beauty, tastes of peace. And still, there's more. Not more attention, not more possessions, more presence. That longing is not ambition, it's divine agitation. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "If I find in myself desires which nothing in this world can satisfy, the only logical explanation is that I was made for another world." That's not poetry. That's wiring. You were created to hunger for depth, not dopamine. Psalm 42:7 whispers, "Deep calls to deep in the roar of your waterfalls." That depth inside you isn't emptiness, it's calling. And when you finally stop chasing the surface and turn inward toward the flame, blue power activates like a hidden code aligning with its source. That's what happened to Ella, a high-level data scientist who, after climbing the tech industry ranks, found herself weeping in her office with no idea why. Her company had awarded her innovation, but her soul felt vacant. She left it all to study theology, and today she uses her understanding of algorithmic ethics to advocate for digital justice. My success was information, she says, but my calling was wisdom. In contrast, Damon, a wellness influencer with millions of followers, built a brand on spiritual alignment, but off-camera lived in contradiction. His obsession with validation masked deep emptiness. He plagiarized teachings, manipulated followers, and when exposed, spiraled into bitterness. Ecclesiastes 6:7 warns, "Everyone's toil is for their mouth, yet their appetite is never satisfied." Do you ever wonder why worldly success doesn't satisfy you the way it seems to satisfy others? Because your spirit was designed to be ignited, not just entertained. Your inner unrest is the spirit's resistance to false alignment. When the soul is out of phase with heaven, even luxury feels like lack. There's a story, told in hushed reverence, about a man named Leif who worked as a lighthouse keeper on a desolate shore. Every morning he lit the flame, not because ships passed daily, but because he believed they might. One night, in a violent storm, a lone boat spotted that distant light and made it to shore. The captain, sobbing, said, "I was seconds from giving up." Leif had no social media, no recognition, no applause, just consistent obedience. That is what you're called to. Nature reflects this rhythm. The Arctic tern, a small bird weighing less than 5 ounces, migrates 44,000 miles a year between poles, guided not by sight, but by magnetic resonance within its biology. It follows invisible cues. It trusts the pull, and so must you. So when your soul burns for more, don't quiet it. Listen, that hunger isn't a flaw. It's the frequency of your calling. Isaiah 55:2 asks, "Why spend money on what is not bread, and your labor on what does not satisfy? Let your fire speak. Let your ache become your answer. You weren't made for noise. You were made for movement, sacred, quiet, unrelenting. And the blue power in you will rise not when you're perfect, but when you're present." Let's not pretend this is casual. Of all the noise you could be absorbing, of all the distractions screaming for your attention, you're here, listening, reading, and even if your logic is on guard, your spirit is leaning in. Why does this feel more like remembering than discovering? You didn't stumble onto this by chance. This is what theologians call kairos, God's appointed time. It's the spiritual equivalent of a tuning fork, vibrating when struck by the exact frequency. Psalm 139:16 whispers, "All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." What you're sensing now isn't emotional hype, it's prophetic recall. You're not just learning something new, you're awakening something ancient, something already written. Because deep calls to deep. Blue power isn't an external badge, it's embedded resonance. It echoes like a forgotten language finally being spoken again. This is why you've been restless in shallow environments, why you've felt misplaced in rooms that looked right. Your soul was never meant for performance, it was meant for presence. And what's stirring now is not just hope, it's memory. In Exodus 3, when God called Moses from the burning bush, he didn't introduce a new destiny, he reactivated an old one. "I have seen the misery of my people," God said, "so now go. I am sending you." Exodus 3:7-10. Moses didn't feel qualified, but destiny doesn't consult your resume. It consults your wiring. There's a reason you feel drawn to this moment. Juliana, a neurosurgeon turned spiritual counselor, once confessed that during operations she often felt something in her hands that went beyond skill, like spiritual memory guiding her fingers. Years later, she left her surgical career to work with trauma victims. She said, "I wasn't changing careers, I was returning to design. That's blue power remembering its form. Not everyone follows the call." Take Aaron, a celebrity strategist who mastered the game of image building. He manipulated perception, architected illusions, and helped people look like truth they never lived. He knew better, but he chose platform over presence. When exposed, he admitted, "I built an empire with tools I knew were fake." Luke 8:17 warns, "There is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be brought out into the open." He didn't just fall. He collapsed under unreconciled resonance. Have you noticed how life has preserved you, even when you didn't deserve it? That's not karma. That's covenant. God's been walking with you, shaping you, strengthening you, and protecting what you were too wounded to see clearly. The repeated cycles, the blocked doors, the inexplicable nudges, they were never punishment. They were positioning. A woman named Raina lived in obscurity for decades. She was a voice teacher in a small town, known for her quiet eyes and thunderous discernment. One day, a young girl asked, "How do you know what song I'm meant to sing before I even open my mouth?" Raina replied, "Because your song was written long before you arrived. I just remember the sheet music. No pulpit, no fame, but heaven echoed through her." Nature understands encoded purpose. The axolotl, a strange aquatic creature, never undergoes full metamorphosis like other amphibians. It retains its youthful form for life, yet it can regenerate limbs, organs, even parts of its brain. Biologists call this neoteny, but in spiritual terms, it's preservation for purpose. Like you, it doesn't transform on demand. It waits for the exact appointed time to reveal what it can truly do. And now that time has come for you. Have you ever sensed that there's no going back? Not because you're better, but because your spirit has crossed a line. Isaiah 43:19 declares, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" This is that new thing. The signs aren't just traits, they're clues. Clues pointing to a purpose far larger than the identity you've worn. Clues that heaven hid in plain sight until you were ready to see. Blue power is real. You've carried it all along. And now that you've remembered what your soul always knew, the only question is, will you walk in it? You may have wondered, if this blue power is really inside me, why has God held it back? The answer doesn't lie in your failure, it lies in heaven's timing. Like seeds resting beneath frozen soil, power doesn't always arrive with thunder. It waits until the ground has been shaped to hold it. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time." And sometimes the most powerful things are hidden, not to be denied, but to be developed. You weren't forgotten, you were forged. Have you ever felt invisible during the seasons you prayed the hardest? That invisibility wasn't rejection, it was refinement. Moses spent 40 years in the desert, tending sheep before his burning bush moment. David was left out of the lineup when Samuel came to anoint a king. And even Jesus, Son of God, disappeared into the wilderness for 40 days before stepping into public ministry. Why? Because character must match calling. Power without formation becomes spiritual instability. In metallurgy, a blade heated too quickly becomes brittle. Only through controlled exposure to fire and stillness does steel become flexible and lethal. That's what your quiet season was doing, welding identity to authority. Romans 5:4 declares, "Perseverance produces character, and character, hope." Mina, a former Broadway actress, felt the sting of obscurity after leaving the stage to care for her ailing mother. For years, she questioned if she had wasted her life. But during those years, she wrote, journals turned into reflections. Reflections became poems. Poems became speeches. Today, she leads an organization that mentors young artists struggling with identity and grief. She once said, "I lost the spotlight, but I found my voice." Her delay wasn't denial, it was alignment. But not everyone embraces the wait. Rico, a motivational speaker with early fame, bypassed the process. He monetized charisma without inner transformation. When scandal broke, his platform collapsed under the weight of performance. Proverbs 19:2 warns, "Desire without knowledge is not good. How much more will hasty feet miss the way? Power untempered by wisdom becomes poison." And while you were being formed, a war was unfolding, one not around you, but within you. Have you noticed how intense the battle has been? Not over your possessions, but over your peace. The enemy isn't worried about your job, your popularity, or even your influence. He fears your clarity. He fears the moment you realize who you actually are, because once you wake up to your identity, your movement in the Spirit becomes seismic. Ephesians 6:12 reminds us, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." That's why you've been under assault in subtle but persistent ways. Mental fatigue, spiritual confusion, sabotaged rest, sudden discouragement. It's not accidental, it's strategic. The enemy knows he cannot destroy what God has called, but he can distract it, delay it, diminish it, unless you wake up. And you are waking up. You're starting to feel the lies break down. The internal architecture of guilt, shame, fear, and self-doubt beginning to crack. Isaiah 61 declares, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." The fog is lifting not because you forced it, but because heaven decided. Do you sense that pull lately? The holy tension between where you are and where you're meant to be? Lena, a once timid nurse, began waking at 3:33 every morning. No explanation, just a still voice that said, "Write." She finally obeyed. Her journal became a manuscript. That manuscript became a devotional that now travels underground through war zones, passed quietly between believers starving for hope. Her delay was divine incubation. The monarch butterfly lives this paradox. Before flight it must go still, sealed inside its chrysalis, dissolved into genetic soup. Not asleep, not dead, recoded, and when it emerges, it carries a memory of a path it has never flown, migrating thousands of miles guided by the sun. Scientists call this vector navigation. In the Spirit, we call it prophetic destiny. So if you've ever asked, why now? Know this, because the season has shifted. Heaven is declaring, enough waiting, enough hiding, enough wondering. The veil is lifting, and the womb of preparation is giving birth to motion. The silence is breaking because you're no longer being prepared. You are being positioned. 2 Timothy 1:6 urges, "Fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you." That's what's happening right now. You're remembering, you're stirring, you're rising, and the blue power that once felt distant is no longer dormant. Let's speak clearly now. The power in you isn't waiting for performance. It's waiting for permission. What's been dormant wasn't dead, it was deferred. And the unlocking doesn't require striving, it requires alignment. Do you know how rare it is in this world to be still? Not just quiet, but available. Stillness is not the absence of movement, it's the presence of intention. Like a tuning fork that resonates only when undisturbed, your spirit sharpens when the noise dims. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I'm God." Stillness invites the divine to speak what chaos drowns out. So here's where the unlocking begins. Silence. Not just the external kind, but internal stillness. the surrender of all the frantic inner narratives. Step into a room where no one needs anything from you. Let your soul breathe. Speak these words aloud. God, show me what you've hidden inside me. That simple ask cracks open the spiritual vault. Have you ever paused long enough to notice the answers were already echoing inside you? From there, speak boldly. Declare truth out loud, not because God needs to hear it, but because your soul does. Proverbs 18:21 reminds us, "The tongue has the power of life and death." Say it. The blue power of God is rising in me. I walk with divine clarity. I carry spiritual authority. This isn't motivational hype. It's neurological reinforcement. The brain rewires itself through repetition, neuroplasticity, and your declarations become blueprints. Not positive thinking, prophetic thinking. Javier, once a shy linguistics professor, started praying declarations daily in his apartment, not just prayers, decrees. Within a year, his voice began shifting classrooms and lecture halls. Today, he teaches spiritual communication to diplomats. Language, he says, shapes destiny. His power didn't arrive in public. It emerged in stillness. Now it's your turn. Walk with courage. Say yes to what scares you. The conversation you keep postponing. The dream that feels too costly. The new version of you you've been delaying. Because blue power follows faith signals, not convenience. Hebrews 11:6 reminds us, without faith it is impossible to please God. Release the past, not by forgetting, but by unhooking from its hold. You can't carry divine power in a vessel still leaking old pain. Let it go. Bless those who broke you. Forgive what didn't apologize. Heal what's been repeating. Do you feel that subtle ache when you revisit past wounds? Like an anchor tugging at your momentum, that's where release begins. Not in denial, but surrender. Blue power requires a clean conduit, not perfect, but open. In contrast, Lara, a popular author, clung to her pain because it gave her influence. Her brand was built on betrayal. When invited to heal, she refused, fearing it would ruin her edge. Slowly, her insight dried up. Her book stopped selling. Her voice lost resonance. She had power, but no flow. 2 Timothy 3:5 warns of those having a form of godliness but denying its power. But you know that hustle can't summon heaven. Blue power isn't a result of striving. It's sourced from stillness, surrendered steps, and sustained presence. Stay close to the source. Feed your spirit. Keep your heart rooted in Scripture. Let the Spirit, not pressure, lead. And when you do, something shifts. Isaiah 55:12 promises, "You will go out in joy and be led forth in peace." The tension in your emotions lessens, your internal chaos quiets. Suddenly, doors open. Not because you knocked, but because your frequency changed. Have you noticed how people begin to gravitate toward you when you're at peace with yourself? It's not charisma, it's alignment. Your voice begins to carry weight in the spirit. You no longer chase impact, it begins to chase you. Like the gravitational pull of a star dense with purpose, your presence begins to shift rooms before you speak. There's a story told in mentor circles about Elias, a man who never raised his voice. He lived quietly, mentoring youth in impoverished neighborhoods. But when he entered a room, even gang members stood still. "I don't know why," one teen said. "It's like his peace has volume." That's blue power. Not flashy, just unshakable. Nature reflects this reality. The jaguar, apex predator of the rainforest, doesn't roar to assert its dominance. It walks silently, yet entire ecosystems shift in its presence. Researchers call it a keystone species. Its very existence regulates the balance of life around it. That's you. Not loud, but essential. Not aggressive, but anointed. So remember who you are. You are not late. You are not small. You are not invisible. You are chosen, and chosen ones don't blend. They bear the kingdom. When you begin to walk in that authority, strategy flows with ease. Favor locates you. Identity solidifies, and your spirit finally rests. Not because the world changed, but because you did. And above all else, this is the moment when you finally remember who you truly are. Not the version you had to shape to survive. Not the version filtered through trauma, fear, or expectation, but the version heaven designed in eternity, before pain distorted your clarity, before systems trained you to shrink, before people convinced you that your fire was too much. This isn't new, it's original. Ephesians 1:4 declares, "He chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight." Your existence didn't begin when you were born. It began in God's intention. You were sent, not just born, designed, not assembled. And the voice calling you now isn't trying to get your attention, it's awakening your memory. You didn't find this message, it found you. Or rather, it aligned with the frequency you were always meant to live in. It's time, not in the abstract, not one day when things calm down, not once you're fully ready. Now Isaiah 61 speaks again. "Arise, shine, for your light has come. Your season of delay, closed. Your season of spiritual fog, cleared. The veil is torn, and heaven is not requesting your attention, it is commanding your emergence." Do you feel the shift rising even as you read? God is saying, "The power I placed in you is ready to rise. Stop doubting what I've already confirmed. You are my chosen one. Walk in it." And yet, most of us still wait for permission, for approval, for some sign that now is safe enough. But chosen ones are never launched in safety, they're launched in obedience. Romans 8:30 assures us, "Those he predestined, he also called. Those he called, he also justified. Those he justified, he also glorified." You don't need another sign, you are the sign. Look at history, look at yourself, the wounded, the watchers, the ones discarded, the ones underestimated. These are the ones God lifts, the ones he breathes into again. Ezekiel 37:5 says, "This is what the sovereign Lord says to these bones, I will make breath enter you and you will come to life." That's what's happening now. Resurrection. You've been bruised, you've been tired, you've doubted your place, you've prayed, "God, is there truly more for me?" And he's answering now, "Yes, there has always been more. And now, it's time." The truth. This will stretch you. Are you ready to outgrow who you used to be? This blue power is not ornamental, it's disruptive. It will challenge your comfort zones. It will require you to unlearn the survival rules of your old self, to stop downplaying your clarity for fear of rejection, to stop shrinking so others can breathe easier around you. Heaven did not place fire in your bones for you to blend in. Natalie, a once quiet architect, spent years drawing buildings she didn't believe in, structures that served commerce but ignored community. One day during worship she saw a vision, radiant cities pulsing with light, designed for both dignity and beauty. She quit her firm. Today, she designs trauma-informed spaces for displaced families. "My blueprints became prophetic," she says. "I stopped drawing what made money. I started drawing what healed." That's what blue power does when fully activated. In contrast, Darren, a marketing director, had the same invitation, but he chose influence over impact. His campaigns were flashy but hollow. Eventually, the very platform he built turned on him. When interviewed later, he confessed, "I built a name, but I lost my voice." Galatians 1:10 cuts deep. Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? And you were never meant to hide. The animal kingdom reflects this truth. The firefly, a creature no bigger than a fingernail, carries bioluminescent enzymes in its belly. In darkness it glows, not for attention, but because light is its nature. You were made to glow in darkness, not in spite of it. So now, in this moment, where the past no longer holds authority and the future begins to form in your spirit, make a spiritual declaration. I will not waste what God has placed in me. I will not dim my light to make others comfortable. I will rise. I will step forward. I will walk in the full measure of the blue power inside me, because I was chosen for such a time as this. Let the world misunderstand you. Let people question what they never had the faith to carry. Let the enemy throw noise. None of it changes your mark. When heaven seals you, no man can unmark you. You're not who you were. You're not where you were. And you'll never again crawl back to the version of you that settled for less than divine ignition. That version is gone, buried. This is resurrection. This is fire. This is identity. This is divine awakening. So breathe deep, stand tall, and walk forward, not with fear, but with the quiet thunder of a soul backed by the authority of heaven. The time for hiding is over. The time for waiting is over. The time for activation is now. You were chosen, not randomly, not by circumstance, but with holy precision. Before time began, heaven whispered your name into the foundations of the earth, and now that same heaven is calling it again. The blue power within you has never been absent. It has only been waiting. Waiting for your permission, waiting for your surrender, waiting for your yes. And now that the veil has lifted, now that your eyes are opening, there is no turning back. This moment, right here, is your spiritual threshold. The future is not something you're chasing, it's something you're stepping into. Every part of your life, every ache, every delay, every silent prayer has led you here. You didn't stumble upon this message. It was prepared for you, aligned for you, and timed for you. And so, chosen one, the invitation is simple. Walk in it. Walk in the truth of who you are. Stop asking the world to validate what heaven already confirmed. Stop waiting to be perfect before you act. Stop silencing your voice so others can stay comfortable in the dark. You are not here to blend in. You were born to disrupt patterns, to carry fire, to speak light into confusion. The authority resting on your life will not always make sense to others, but it will always make a way for those assigned to your voice. If something deep in you stirred as you listened, if a sense of urgency, remembrance, or clarity rose up, honor it. Like this message to affirm that agreement in your spirit. Share it with someone else who's carrying a quiet fire. Comment below with your declaration, I am chosen. I carry blue power. Say it boldly. Say it publicly. Let the world feel your frequency shift. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel so you never miss another message meant to fuel your spirit and align your steps. To those of you who have supported this space through super thanks, through your time, your comments, your silent prayers, please hear this from my heart. Thank you, truly. Whether you gave $1 or simply gave your attention, your presence is a gift. You are part of something bigger. Your participation helps this message find the ones who are still searching. It helps break silence. It helps restore clarity. It helps spread light into the places where lies have ruled for too long. And even if you never comment, never donate, never say a word, just by being here, you've confirmed something eternal. You are part of this awakening. So now, may the Spirit of the living God go with you. May your steps be guided, your mind guarded, and your voice ignited. May every gift inside you begin to awaken in perfect time. May the weight of your calling become lighter, not because it shrinks, but because your spirit expands. May you stop running from the fire inside you and start walking as one who carries it. May your presence shift atmospheres. May your peace silence storms. And may your life be a living declaration that God still chooses. God still speaks, and God still moves through the ones no one expected. You are not invisible. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are chosen. You are rising. And the time is now. God bless you, beloved. Keep walking. Keep burning. We are just getting started.